so that you can hear better, see better, and interact better with Jeremy and also Mark. So I'm really happy to have Jeremy from Wintec and also Mark from Wintec here today. Mark is dialing in directly from Wintec in Hamilton. And they've been using Mahara, again, like a number of our other presenters, for a number of years already. And first on a different platform, now on their in-house implementation, and also looking into rolling it out more across the Waikato Institute of Technology. So let's hear from them what they are actually doing just southwest of here.
Thanks, Christina. So I'm experimenting a little bit with this with you guys. So we're using this Padlet here as our one-stop shop. If you've been able to make it, great. If you haven't, then got the website there. And basically, first of all, what I wanted to ask was, how many of us are here as technical people as opposed to academic people? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there we go, Mark. We've got at least 3 techies, and I'm guessing the rest are academic. This, as you would have read in the abstract, is a both sides of the fence type thing. We had so much to say about our experiences over the years, and I didn't want to just keep it to the academic's view, because, and I guess this is the takeaway, is that it's, the benefit is when ITS and academic can get together. And we have seen that as a theme in this conference. I've really enjoyed listening to some of the technical aspects and things like that. So hopefully, as you hear us talking, and as you write notes and think of questions, if you'd like to, put them up on the fly in here, and we will basically tailor our presentation to what you want to hear. Because we could say a heck of a lot of stuff, and you might not be interested. So this is up to you guys. Okay? Yeah, so, as I say, you can click in here to add your bits. Oh yeah, excellent. And if you really want to cheat, you can scroll down, and that's where a lot of our content is. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here so you can read a little bit of what I'm going to say. I'm going to say some things, Mark's going to say some things, and hopefully we're going to keep it, as balanced as possible, see how it goes. As an introduction, I am in the Centre for Education and Foundation Pathways, formerly known as the Centre for Teaching and Learning, formerly known only 2 years ago as the Centre for School of Education. And I'm a teaching, I'm an academic, I'm a teacher, but I also do a lot of professional development in Wintec, in our Polytechnic, but I've also done a bunch of technical stuff in terms of Mahara anyway. Here's a bit of our timeline. I hope it's easy enough to read. I'll scroll down just a little bit. There we go. We started with... sorry, Mark.
Hello.
Would you like to just tell everyone what you are at Wintec and who you are and stuff?
I'm a solutions architect within the ITS team. Been at Wintec for 10 years now, but it's my second time around. I was at the Waikato Polytech many years ago before the internet, so really seen the growth of online and learning online. Been working quite closely with Jeremy and many others on the e-learning side of and flexible delivery in particular, and really find it enjoyable.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. Right, so we started with fiddling, with Mahara way back in 2012, which actually isn't that way back compared to some of you guys. That was when we had a testing installation set up on our... do you know what the IL server was back then, Mark?
Yeah, it was John Clayton had put together a collection of technologies under one banner called IL, which was the Integrated Services Learning Environment, I think he called it.
But it was also quite an island, wasn't it?
It was.
And so I was working with the early childhood education team, and they were looking to do more with their practicum assessment. And when I heard that we had, I'd heard about Mahara and I'd seen it used a little bit, but when I heard that we had a test installation on the IELTS server, we went for that, and that's kind of where things started. So we set up a bit of a pilot group. Of course, had to give students their own logins, and I set up tables and added the students manually to the Mahara server, etc. It was pretty much self-managed by myself. In that time, I worked with the teaching team to change the way that they thought about their practicum assessment. And we did things like, the way it used to be was in folders and paper, and we changed it from filling in this box to answering open questions and using Mahara to develop their own reflection as well as portfolios. There was lots of crashing because it was a test environment, and we did find out later on that ITS Service Desk were getting a lot of requests and a lot of complaints from students that it would crash, which was a positive in that students were actually on there using it. Obviously more than me, because I didn't know there's any crashes. But yes, we had, I think, up to 250 users on that installation. There's a little bit of a link, that pink line there, research into pilot group, is a little bit of a link for those who want to see a bit of paper that I wrote up. But then we decided, okay, actually this came from a survey that Service Desk did, and realised that students were complaining too much about it crashing, and they came to me saying, Jeremy, what's this service that you're giving to students that's crashing? Isn't that right, Mark? Were you part of privy to any of that?
No, I wasn't actually. But it would have gone straight to the Service Desk.
Yeah.
I probably didn't hear of any of it.
But you guys like to keep it quite a tight ship, eh, and make sure that things are, things that are going to students are running properly, right? Exactly,
yeah. It is all about student experience.
Yeah. And so I got kind of hauled over the coals for not providing a brilliant student experience. So we decided to migrate. And I'm calling this Migrate 1.0 because you can see that there's a couple of them. We moved to My Portfolio, and we apparently negotiated, I'm not quite sure of the details, but someone apparently negotiated for a 500 user bracket that we could pay for instead of jumping from 250 to 1,000. But yes, so I spent at least 2 weeks full time backing up and moving, and putting all our users into a format that we could give to My Portfolio, which was the Leap 2A. Lots of things with that one. The biggest fun part for me was that in the testing server it was 1.6 or 7, and there wasn't the ability to resize pictures as you upload photos, and some students were adding lots of photos, and some of their portfolios were getting rather large, and we realised that there was a limit. In talking with Catalyst, the My Portfolio supporters, we realised that there was a limit on how much each portfolio could be to upload. So I had to go back through all of our 250 e-portfolios into the zip file within the Leap 2A and find any large files and shrink them, and then re-zip them, and then we could upload them. So that was a lot of effort on behalf of an academic. So then we headed into, let's have a look here. Okay. Oh, cool. All right. So then we headed into the My Portfolio environment. Were you privy at all, Mark, when we were going into the My Portfolio environment, or was it later that you kind of came on board?
No, it wasn't until we actually built our own on-premise Mahara server that I became involved.
Okay, so I'll let you take over when we get there, which will be really soon. So we went to My Portfolio because it was stable. We weren't ready to provide that service ourselves just yet. We had up to 500 users, and within a year we quickly reached those 500 users. We had the early childhood students, which were the main the main required users. And then we had a couple who we actually had found out that were using My Portfolio before that, just as an odd user here and there. But soon we had different programs decide to start using e-portfolios in various ways, and we reached that limit. We still had no help desk support, so when students who were using My Portfolio had troubles and they called 0800 help desk, ITS still had no clue what to say. A lot of those calls came back to me, but we had more and more teachers wanting to use it, and so this is around about when Mark came along. Actually, maybe even before that. Then we realised as an organisation that we needed to start using e-portfolios. I could see this wonderful vision, and others were kind of starting to get wind of that, and so we're a Microsoft site. We use Sharepoint a lot, and someone had a brilliant idea that we could use maybe Sharepoint as an e-portfolio solution. We tried to develop our own e-portfolio solution. Can you comment about that, Mark?
It was a bit of a failure. Sharepoint is not an e-portfolio system. It doesn't have the capabilities of a dedicated e-portfolio like Mahara. But the biggest problem we have is that under Microsoft current licensing, students, once they leave Wintec, we have to revoke their Microsoft license. So it sort of defeats the purpose of having a portfolio. If a student has taken the time and effort to invest in creating a portfolio, the last thing we want to do is take it off them when they leave.
Yeah. So you can now start to see how ITS was starting to learn about the academic side, the pedagogical side of this system that any other technical person would just see as another system. And there was a lot of learnings happened in that. The academics that were part of that, tried to say yes as much as possible, but there was just so many roadblocks with that. It was basically using a wiki system within an individual wiki system within SharePoint. So when that kind of, a bit of money was invested, wasn't it? And then it kind of was pulled. That's when we decided to go with Mahara. In around about 2015. And this is where Mark and I really started to strike up a relationship. I had all this knowledge from my administration of Mahara. Mark had all this. I'd never seen a database before though, so Mark knew about the databases. And in late 2015, we decided to migrate our 500 users from My Portfolio into Wintec's own instance of Mahara. What have I got there? Yes, we had to pay to get the database from My Portfolio, which is understandable since it was their server, basically their data, and we asked for it in several ways, didn't we, Mark?
We did, yes. As a bulk export, which didn't really work. But in the end we got the database, the source files from Mahara, and the data files. From there we managed to build our own migration server, which was a copy of Wintec's instance of the My Portfolio.
Yes. And
we use that to migrate the data. Which, do you want me to go into that now, or?
Who's interested in hearing a little bit about that? We've got 2 hands. Is that enough? We've got 2.5 hands. Okay, go ahead. On the Padlet, if you want to scroll down, I've added a bit under the migration. Or do you want me to share the screen? No, I've got the Padlet up here. So under migration 2.0.
No, scroll down. There should be some of my notes.
Excellent. I see them.
Okay, cool. So under the migration, first of all, why didn't we stick with My Portfolio? Well, really, the main reason was the cost, the ongoing cost. We want students, once they've created a portfolio, to keep them indefinitely. So once they're finished at Wintec, we don't remove student accounts. They can still log in and access resources, and why shouldn't they be able to access their portfolio? So as a guide, I just had a look. Our current Moodle instance has 75,000 users. That could turn out to be reasonably expensive for Wintec if we were to pay to host on my portfolio, potentially 75, 80,000 portfolios. Many students do create a portfolio, so there's quite an uptake in usage of Mahara. One of the other reasons is that by hosting our own instance, we can choose which plugins, what sort of customizations, and when to upgrade. We're not bound by the hosting provider deciding when upgrades and what plugins are going to be used. We control things, really. So, as I said earlier, we got the data from Catalyst, and we built a copy of the My Portfolio system. So it was an exact copy. We then extracted all the user information. Now, some of the user information we weren't sure about. We wanted to match them against the student information that we had in our student management system. So we extracted all the usernames. Luckily, Jeremy put the student ID in most of them, so we got to check directly against the student management system for the correct Wintec username and correct spelling of names, just in case they'd been entered incorrectly. We then created some interesting PHP and Bash scripts. For those not familiar, Bash scripts is a Linux scripting tool that you can, that can be quite extensive. The PHP scripts we used to automate a lot of things we wanted to do. So the first script we created was a CLI, a command line interface to bulk export all of the user information into a file. We didn't use the bulk export that was built into Mahara because we had problems with timeouts from the web server. So we wanted to run from the command line so we didn't have any issues with timeouts or non-reporting of errors, maybe. Then we created another script that would import these Let2A files into our new Mahara server. Unfortunately, we had in parallel with my portfolio. So some of the students actually had created a portfolio on Wintec's system and also had one on the My Portfolio system. So we needed to identify those users that hadn't, and we imported those Let2A files that had content on My Portfolio into the new Wintec Mahara system and created a user account for them. For those that already had created a portfolio on Wintec system, we developed another script that would just upload their Let2A file into a migration folder in the Mahara file section. So then they could choose whether they wanted to import any of that content themselves and which of that content they wanted to import.
And we provided instructions on how to do that. I remember making some of that and talking to a few students and telling teachers. Hey, we've got about 5 more minutes to go. Okay. Sorry to cut you off. Okay, so that's kind of the technical overview. So we did that. We migrated to our own instance, and we've been running our own instance since 2016, which was the beginning of. And since then, I thought I was pretty smart having a graph, but Georgie beat me. That's kind of what our total users have looked like, and that's a day-by-day plot for the, since November 2015. You can see our initial migration of users in that first red band there, and there's that little jot there was when we did exactly what Mark said and imported some of those overlapping users. It was about, I think there was about 200 of them, and then that trend line shows that there's around an average of 13 users a day. 13 new users a day on our system. Now, getting to some of the pedagogy behind that, I work with specific programs and specific tutors, but unlike a lot of universities, we don't actually have a blanket policy just yet. We do have a thing called the Technology Implementation Framework that states Mahara and Moodle and some of the Office 365 tools that we use as our core teaching and learning technologies, but we don't actually have a blanket thou shalt use Mahara for whatever. But the word is getting out, and you can see where the beginnings of semesters are as the line ramps up. And so there is natural, organic uptake of Mahara.
Do students self-enroll, or do they, if they self-enroll, do they as an account created automatically, or is there some other?
Yeah, well, the way that we've networked, how are we networked with Moodle at the moment, Mark?
We're using Moodle, so we're using Moodle networking. So if a student is in Moodle, they can just click on the Mahara link that we've got at the top of the Moodle page. It'll take them directly into Mahara using Moodle networking. But we also recently upgraded to federated authentication, so users can go directly to a Mahara URL and just type in their username and password, their Wintec username and password, and provision an account.
And I've got to tell you that they announced IPA as well here, so we might be able to use that next time as well.
Cool.
You probably know more about what that means than me. Yeah, so once they click on the link or go into Mahara, then their profile is created. Yeah, there is a thing in the Padlet around the ways that we're using it. We've got a broad range of uses, from just using journals to workplace experience. We've got level 2 foundation courses using it to present workshop evidence. And there are issues around taking technology into a workshop, but the students seem to be doing that and taking that up well. We're also using it to make connections, especially with industry, but make connections with, for that level 2 program, with youth services and support. With that particular program, the youth services tutors, or the support tutors, pastoral care tutors, they own the portfolio, because that particular program we haven't deemed Mahara as a core teaching technology to teach to those students, because it's a second chance learners, and we're wanting to have the right tools for what they need, and we deemed Mahara was just a little bit too big for their needs, but they're still viewing Mahara pages that are shared with them from their tutors, and that are then being linked into external support services. So yeah, so there's a wide range of ways that we're doing it. I don't want to talk any more because we've got about a minute left, and I don't have a lot more questions that have been posted up here, but if you have a question, please ask it.
Well, we have 5 minutes of discussion.
Oh, we've got about 5 minutes of discussion.
So what are your plans for your Wintec Mahara instance? What sort of plugins do you want to experiment with to improve the experience for your students and lecturers?
Did you hear that, Mark?
No.
Okay. Christina was asking about what kind of plugins are we looking at to improve our student experience. Now you've got some in the mix, is that right?
I think we do. They mostly have come from Heath, another tutor. He's the CPD plugin, the Elasticsearch is certainly something we're keen on. I don't know too much about the plugins, really leave it up to the academic side to decide what and...
We're looking to make this Elasticsearch cover both Mahara and Moodle, and so that when you search for something in the global search in Moodle, it will also search through your Mahara pages as well, which would really be quite cool. There was one, something that I'm really excited and interested about is having access to your cloud-based servers, your cloud-based files from within Mahara as well as Moodle. That's something that we don't quite have right now, even though all of our students have an Office 365 OneDrive. So if they want to upload a file to Moodle or Mahara, they have to download it onto their PC or their device and then upload it back up to there. So that, I believe, would make a world of difference, being able to access those natively. And I have just noticed the output the making available of Mahara Mobile, and it would be great to see where that goes in the future as well, especially if we want to make it really easy and in our students' pockets, especially for those lower levels that are, that some programs have said, like that one I described, have said no, Mahara's just a little bit too involved, too technical. If we could get the Mahara mobile app being a little bit more representative of it would be awesome. Yeah.
Do you also use different languages on your Mahara instance?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure we don't have any other languages that are being used, do we, Mark?
We don't, but there's nothing stopping us from.
Yeah.
Because it would be interesting, especially because I think you do get an increasing number of international students.
Yes.
If that could help them kind of get started with their studies or support them in their portfolio creation, or also for your students to learn some languages.
Yes, well, as far as I'm aware, the language department hasn't approached this yet, but it would be great if they would. Yes, yeah, various languages.
And so you also have your own theme?
Yeah, we've got our own theme there. It's actually pretty small. It's not going to...
Oh, it will expand. There's one. If you go down to the bottom, I've got a Mahara
you've got a big one?
thing. Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to see. Yeah. So there's our Moodle on the left and our Mahara on the right. The yellow doesn't look that bad in real life. That's just the projector.
We're using Mnet to connect Mahara and Moodle.
It's Mnet, isn't it, Mark?
Sorry?
That's Mnet that we're using to connect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is correct, yeah, but we also use federated auth as well, so we don't have to use Mnet. It's just for the Moodle integration that we use Mnet.
Because part of the user experience behind that was, first of all, we wanted the single sign-on, the single username and password, but we got that, but you still had to go in through Moodle to get to Mahara. You can see at the top of the Moodle theme, there's a link, a persistent link on every Moodle page to Mahara, and they can just click to go straight there. But it actually became problematic really quickly, especially for the users who are used to going to My Portfolio, because they then couldn't bookmark Mahara and go straight into it. They had to go in through being signed in Moodle and then into Mahara. And it took a bit of working around, didn't it, Mark, to be able to create a link for them to go into mahara.wintec.ac.nz and be able to sign in using their Wintec sign-in.
That's right, and to prepend the Moodle URL in front with a parameter to jump to Mahara.
So, yeah. Any more questions or comments? So in bridging both sides of that fence, I know we've only kind of touched on a couple of things. I haven't said a lot of pedagogical stuff because I've seen a lot of pedagogy addressed already here at the conference. I just want to say that we do things organically. It would be great to get a lot more systems, a lot more blanket power, but the way things are structured at the moment, there really isn't the ability to do that just at the moment. But I'm really happy at when people come to me and ask me about Mahara and what can it do, they're looking at the pedagogy, they're looking at, so not just how can I put my assessment online, they see not only the benefits of being able to share and working through the development, but they're also thinking, okay, this means I can break out of that box. So, yeah, that's really quite heartening. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Great job. And feel free to, post anything to that Padlet. It's a persistent link, so you can go and, ask any questions later, and I'll be checking it up, and I can respond to you there as well.
Thank you very much, Jeremy and Mark. And the Padlet can also be embedded into Jeremy's portfolio now on the Wintec Mahara site.
Yeah.
And we'll have it there for eternity because he has a lifelong portfolio. And that's really interesting to see institutions moving that way, giving alumni access also Zoom staff and so on, and see more of that happening, so that it's not just a portfolio related to one class or two classes, but really becomes that lifelong record of learning that you can always access, expand on, or refer back to. And Wintec has done a really good step with that, and has now the opportunity to make a good experience for their students in that way. But of course, in other aspects, smaller organizations could look into a multi-tenanted site, which we've discussed yesterday and on Wednesday quite a bit, to kind of see how can those mechanisms be leveraged for small people, or not small people, small institutions that may not, small fish exactly, that may not have a developer like Mark Posa on their team who just want to use it. Thank you so much. And